Thank you very much for a kind introduction, Julian. I hope that my presentation is well seen. Good afternoon, everyone. As you heard from the introduction, my name is Ana Kramar. I am working currently at Universidad Carlos III in Madrid, and I am working on a certain novel technique for nanofibers preparation, which is called solution blow spinning. And today I will present cellulose acetate nanofibers, a derivative of cellulose, preparation using solution blow spinning, the challenges that we faced during the preparation and application perspectives. So just quickly and shortly, even though Julian already made a fantastic introduction about my research path, so I come from Belgrade, Serbia, where I obtained my PhD in textile engineering. And my main research area has always been cellulose chemistry and engineering of cellulose-based materials. And during my PhD and after, during my postdoc at University of Belgrade, I was developing new physical, chemical, and chemical methods for cellulose fibers modification. From 2021, I obtained Marie Curie co-fund grant, and I came to University Carlos III, or Universidad Carlos III, and I have joined the research group of polymer composite materials and interfaces led by Professor Javier González Benito. So the main research line in this group is solution blow spinning as a processing technique for nano and submicrometric fibers. So this was a fantastic lecture by Professor Michael Hummel, where we saw a lot of opportunities and a lot of different areas of application for cellulose fibers, in this case macrofibers, and today I will speak about nanofibers, or fibers that have diameters below 1 micrometer. So solution blow spinning is essentially, as many of you are familiar with, is essentially a technique very similar to electrospinning, but a more robust technique, since in this case we are not using electric field. So here you can see in this, I hope you see my pointer. In this scheme, you can see that the first step is, of course, to dissolve our polymer. And then by using the injection pump, we deliver the polymer to the nozzle. And at the exit of the nozzle, we have connected pressurized air, which is actually a driving force for nanofibers delivery to the collector, which is positioned at a certain distance from the nozzle. And at the same time, this pressurized air helps evaporate the solvent. So it's very similar to electrospinning technique, a well-established technique for nanofibers. But instead of electric field, the driving force for nanofibers formation is pressurized air. Here you can see a setup of our device that we are using here at UC3M. And what I would like to point out that this device is low-cost device, and main structure of the device is actually 3D printed. And this device is inside this box. These are our facilities for spinning. And this box is, of course, connected to the outlet for removal of potential toxic and volatile compounds. We also have a commercial spin box, which is electrospinning device. And some members in our group have developed and designed a nozzle that can be adapted into this spin box device, but to be used as solution blow spinning, so completely to remove electrical field and to use only pressurized air. So why would we use solution blow spinning instead of electrospinning? Well, for the first reason is that in solution blow spinning we can have high injection rates. So we are able to process up to 1 milliliter per minute of polymeric solution. And since we don't have electrical field, and since we don't use electrical voltage, we have a possibility to use any collector, and this implies in situ application. Another advantage is that solution blow spinning as a technique has a dual functionality. So if we change the parameters of the spinning and if we change the parameters of polymer solution, we can get either nanofibers, but we also can get films. So here is a short video. I hope you all see this, how nanofibers are produced using solution blow spinning. Here is the nozzle, and here is the delivery of high pressure air outside the nozzle. And this air drives the polymer solution, polymer jet, to a collector, where we have the solidification of a polymer jet and formation of nanofibers. As I was saying, one of the main advantages is possibility of direct application of solution blow spinning onto body or organs, for example. Here is an image of handheld airbrush, which is a commercial airbrush and which can be used for production of nanofibers using solution blow spinning. Here is another really nice image of polymeric nanofibers that are produced directly onto the gloved hand. Of course, you cannot do it with electrospinning device. And here is real images of solution blow spun nanofibers directly deposited during the surgical procedure from really nice review article by a group of authors. Here you can see, if anyone is interested, you can check it out. So just briefly, the goal of my project, which I'm leading here, is that I am using cellulose diacetate in a combination with chitosan and cellulose nanocrystals to produce bioactive composite film by new method for preparation of solution blow spinning. And in today's talk, I will focus only on the aspect of preparation of cellulose diacetate and cellulose diacetate nanofibers. But in this project, we are also preparing both nanofibers and films from cellulose acetate. And we faced many challenges in the beginning when we started working with this. Remember, I started my project in 2021. And in the beginning, we thought that it will be quite straightforward process, since we all know that cellulose acetate has substitute hydroxyl groups. And this substitution of hydroxyl groups enables cellulose acetate to be soluble in many organic solvents if we talk about cellulose diacetate. So we have a quite wide range of possibilities to study various solvents to prepare solution of cellulose acetate to be processed by solution blow spinning. However, when I was writing my project in 2019 project proposal, there were almost no literature data regarding solution blow spinning. And it was quite surprising, because if you see here, the number of papers per year that include keywords electrospinning and cellulose acetate, it's quite high. It goes, in recent 5 years, it goes more than 100 papers, documents per year published. And in the case of solution blow spinning, there was one paper in 2018 that, in fact, they were using electro-assisted solution blow spinning to produce cellulose acetate nanofibers. And finally, in 2020, a group of authors published so-called co-spinning with polyacrylonitrile, but no cellulose acetate, pure cellulose acetate nanofibers preparation. This was quite surprising, since we had a lot of data from electrospinning, and since these techniques are quite similar, but as you will see later, we faced many challenges and difficulties. So in the beginning, we were preparing, we found the limiting concentrations were actually 12 and 14% of cellulose acetate solution. And here you can see this versatility that I was speaking about in solution blow spinning, that when we use the certain composition of a solution, when we dissolve our polymer in acetone and dimethylformamide in 70-30% ratio, we obtain a film. And if we decrease the ratio of dimethylformamide by only 20%, we obtain fibrous morphology. However, these fibers were not without beads. We had a lot of a lot of material, a lot of imperfections, so to say. And we gathered this and published in our in the beginning of this year in Journal Materials and Design. You can see we have a supplementary material, big tables, gray tables with the data about all the processing conditions that we used. We used a lot of combinations of different solvents, which included acetone, as mentioned, DMF, acetic acid, dimethylformamide, and various concentration. And we found that in our case, in our device, limiting concentration of cellulose acetate is 14%, but we opted to continue with 12% solution. So we wanted to address the challenge how to process defect-free cellulose acetate nanofibers using this novel solution-blow spinning. As I mentioned in some earlier slides, there was one publication in 2020 where a group of authors used polyacrylonitrile to process it with cellulose acetate. In our group, we were also working with polyethylene oxide, and polyethylene oxide nanofibers are very easy to process with solution blow spinning. Here you can see a fantastic nanofibrous material or non-woven material made from 10% polyethylene oxide in acetone chloroform mixture, and with really low diameter of nanofibers, around 200 nanometers. Compared to this, cellulose acetate in pure acetone of 12% concentration gave us not very good material. So our experimental design was to process with solution blow spinning cellulose acetate and polyethylene oxide. We wanted to investigate different ratios of these polymers in a mixture. We also investigated two different air pressures. And what was the main idea, because in all other papers, when cellulose-based materials or other polymers are co-spun with another polymer, there is not much information about the process of removal of that polymer or removal of the spinning gate. So we wanted to pay special attention to the removal of polyethylene oxide and to characterize these fibers. We were also curious, as you will see later, as in the mechanism of how these nanofibers are actually produced when you have two components, polyethylene oxide and cellulose acetate, and the resulting nanofibers. Do we have a complete mixture of polymers in one nanofiber? Do we have separate nanofibers, part of PEO, part of cellulose acetate, etc.? So we decided to test all of this, and here you can see that regarding processing conditions, we found that the limiting ratio is around 20% of PEO. If we reduce the PEO below around 20% in a polymer mixture, we are not getting nanofibers, and we have blocking of the nozzle and other difficulties that we are facing. Another important conclusion was that there is no any difference if we change the pressure, air pressure at the exit of the nozzle in terms of morphology and size of nanofibers. So we have some, let's say, a wider spinability window if we consider the air pressure. And we found that we can use higher injection rates, which means faster processing time, if we use the same ratio of cellulose acetate PEO 1:1 or 5:5. So here you can see in A and C scanning electron micrograph of nanofibers before and after washing with deionized water. And we were very happy and excited when we washed our non-woven materials and when we saw that we actually preserved this nanofibers morphology. We decided to use differential scanning calorimetry to monitor the removal of polyethylene oxide. That's how we were tracking the removal, and that's how we saw that we removed the majority of polyethylene oxide. So you see here we have peaks that correspond to melting temperature of PEO, and after washing, These are the samples denoted VW as washed samples. This peak is disappearing. When we were studying the distribution size of diameters of nanofibers, we came to a surprising conclusion. As we will recall in the beginning, I told that pure polyethylene oxide nanofibers have low diameter, around 200 nanometers. So if we process cellulose acetate and polyethylene oxide nanofibers at the same time, but they are formed separately, this component in the distribution would be removed after washing. But it was quite the opposite. We in fact obtained the curve of the size of distribution much more shifted to the left. It happened whether we were using a 1:1 ratio of polymer or more cellulose acetate than PEO. So you see here in this case, we actually in scanning electron micrographs, we didn't find the fibers below 300 nanometers, but after the washing, we have a majority of 300 and 400 nanometer fibers. So it was really peculiar to see the result like this. So we wanted to see how these nanofibers are actually formed. I must also say that if we decrease the ratio of PEO, we obtain much thicker fibers. So how these composite nanofibers are actually produced? We proposed a new method of staining of composite nanofibers with 5% iodine in absolute ethanol. Why? Because polyethylene oxide forms a dark complex with iodine, while cellulose acetate remains orange after coloration with iodine. And we were looking at the fibers before and after washing using optical microscope. And what we saw was really interesting findings. Here you can see in image H that actually we saw a dark coating around orange stained parts of our nanofibers. Here, after washing, we don't have anymore this dark coating. And actually, these results of staining are consistent with the size distribution shift after PEO removal, because as you can see here, there are actually 2-3 nanofibers which are orange, orange colored, that are enveloped by this dark coloration, which presumably comes from polyethylene oxide. So we were wondering if this processing of cellulose acetate polyethylene oxide is actually mechanism lies maybe in the traditional bicomponent spinning. And here is figure from Fundamentals of Fiber Formation, an old book regarding the science of fiber spinning and drawing by Ziabitsky. And I will quote, when viscosity of one component is much higher than the other, that component is enveloped by the one with lower viscosity. So we measured the viscosity of our starting polymer solutions, cellulose acetate and PEO. And here you can see that their ratio is really high, and that the viscosity of cellulose acetate that we used is actually almost 70 times higher than of PEO. So it means that most probably this is the answer why we have the dark coating of polyethylene oxide that surrounds the cellulose acetate component and helps the spinning. We also saw that after washing, gravimetric determination, so we were measuring weight of our nonwoven material before and after washing, and when we saw in polyethylene oxide that in differential scanning colorimetry that we don't have temperature of melting of polyethylene oxide, we saw that this gravimetric determination was off by several percentages, that we constantly get the weight of our material after washing and drying that should contain some small amount of polyethylene oxide, but we couldn't see the exact melting peak of polyethylene oxide on DSC. And we actually found that there are two TGs, two glass transition temperatures in our pristine and washed samples after the spinning. And one of them is actually corresponding to the mixed polymers of polyethylene oxide and cellulose acetate. And it's like they formed another complex, and that in this case, polyethylene oxide is behaving somehow as a plasticizer. And this TG2 is a glass transition temperature measured at higher temperatures between 180 and 200, which is expected for cellulose acetate. But this TG1, which we called it TG1, this first glass transition temperature, is actually in lower range. And this temperature difference between two TGs corresponds to a certain weight fraction of polyethylene oxide, which was determined by using Fox equation. And we found that it's corroborated with gravimetric measurements, and that we presume that we actually have included polyethylene oxide into cellulose acetate. We also studied the zeta potential of nanofibers, and since many applications include pure cellulose, we also studied the acetylation process to convert cellulose acetate back to pure cellulose after washing of nanofibers, and we used the zeta potential to monitor the acetylation process. We have done this in collaboration with Anton Par from Spain and their principal scientist, Dr. Thomas Luxbacher. And we discovered that the nanofibers, cellulose acetate nanofibers, have really low magnitude of zeta potential, which means that they are swelling a lot. And here you can see that if we talk about never dried fibers, their water absorbent capacity is 33 grams of water per gram of fiber. And here you can see the photograph of approximately 30 milligram of nanofibers that are swelled in deionized water, and they are not dispersed in water. They completely retain the shape. Unfortunately, if you dry this material and reswell it, we are reducing the absorption capacity, but it's still quite high. It can absorb 3 grams of water per gram of material. We also found these composite nanofibers have peculiar mechanical properties. I hope you will be able to see this this video taken during the measurements. These nanofibers are actually weak, and here you can see the stress-strain curve. But what was really interesting about these nanofibers, here you can see on this video, they are very elastic, and they are we have the ability to draw them and to pull them, and they will still somehow hold this nanofibrillous structure. And we actually found that this shape of the curve, when we observe stress-strain curve, is unusual, because in most of the cases with polymeric fibers and nanofibers and films, we have the sudden drop of the force when material is breaking, and we have a sudden failure of the material. But in this case, in our case, we have fibers which are slowly are pulled, and they have really high strain. Regarding the potential application of these fibers, besides, as you saw, a tremendous absorption capacity, we also tried to produce and to include some antimicrobial components. So we decided to use zinc oxide nanoparticles for antibacterial application. And here you can see we successfully incorporated zinc oxide into cellulose acetate polyethylene oxide composite nanofibers, and we even obtained a slightly finer or thinner fibers. We used EDX to confirm that it is zinc oxide. Here you can see we used 2.5 and 5% of nanoparticles into nanofibers. And I would like to get your attention just to see, for example, this main fiber in this lower picture. We can actually see the mechanism that we were speaking about earlier, that we have, in fact, two fibers that are coated with a thin layer of polyethylene oxide, and zinc oxide nanoparticles are actually inside this composite. When we were studying the size distribution, we saw that average value of the size distribution is not changing by changing the concentration of polymers or by changing concentration of nanoparticles significantly. But we saw that the mode is significantly lower. And when we were studying the viscosity of these composite solutions, we saw that actually the lowest viscosity is obtained when we have a mixture of cellulose acetate polyethylene oxide with the addition of 2.5% nanoparticles. And in fact, in this case, we obtain much, much thinner and higher number of thinner nanofibers. We also studied the release, potential release of zinc oxide when we put these nanofibers in water. We expected that once we put them in water, once we dissolve polyethylene oxide, zinc oxide will also be released. But this wasn't the case. And as you can see here, we put this black line is actually 5 days. We kept for 5 days our material in water, and we don't have any peak that corresponds to zinc oxide. But when we added acetone and when we, in fact, dissolved our material, we found the peak of zinc oxide. Here you can see on image as well, after the addition of acetone. When we have zinc oxide, we have release. And in this case, when we don't have zinc oxide, the solution upon the addition of acetone is transparent. We also studied the antibacterial activity against E. coli, and we analyzed the growth of bacteria on our nanofibers. And without zinc oxide, here you can see with the yellow areas in the scanning electron microscope image, we can see bacterial colonies that are preserved on our nanofibers. But when we add zinc oxide, we almost have none colonies. We have one small bacteria which we found, and we were looking and looking and looking during the measurements, but we found only one small lonely bacteria here, but other parts of our non-woven material were completely clear from bacterial colonies. So to conclude, today I showed you that it is possible to process solution blow spinning, process cellulose acetate nanofibers using solution blow spinning, but also that mechanism of processing is very important, and it's important to monitor the removal of this polymer which we are using as a spinning aid. I showed you that it is possible to obtain high absorbing nanofibers, and these nanofibers can have a potential application as antibacterial materials, in biomedical application. They can have application, for example, in hygiene products because they are super absorbent, and also because they have a high absorbing capacity, they can possibly have potential application as environmental remediation material, and this will be, of course, the objective of further study. However, there are still challenges and many perspectives in this area that in terms that we should investigate more in the processing conditions to to explore other derivatives. I only showed today cellulose acetate, but we can process probably other cellulose derivatives. I know that it is also possible to process pure cellulose. One group from Sweden, I believe it was in 2019 or 20, they processed pure cellulose from ionic liquid using solution blow spinning, and their submicrometric fibers were around, I believe, in 1-2 micrometers in diameter, so thicker than in our case, but still they show that it is possible also to process pure cellulose. And we can also have a perspective for recycling of polymers, because I think it's important, especially if we speak about cellulose acetate, because as we know, cellulose acetate is used, for example, for iframes, for glasses, or for cigarette filters, and there is a lot of waste that is generated when we speak about this particular derivative of cellulose. So that could be a future perspective to use a versatile and quick techniques such as solution blow spinning to produce high value and high quality products. And in the end, I would like to acknowledge first the European Commission for funding these experiments, of course, members of my group here at UC3M, and another student from Marist College in USA. She visited us this year, and she was working with me, Caroline Voorhis. She was working with me on the study with nanofibers and zinc oxide. Of course, bioengineering department here at UC3M, they helped us with studying antimicrobial activity. I mentioned I had a secondment stay at Anton Par last year, where we studied the zeta potential of these nanofibers, and I want to thank them and Dr. Thomas Lusbacher for a fantastic collaboration, and I want to thank all of you for your attention. Thank you very much.